Good morning. Welcome back to Unraveled Game Thoughts. I have two more decks of Magic that I am testing out against each other. It is relatively early in the morning, and so I am still waking up and probably will jumble my words. So 5, 6, 7. I've played these a couple rounds of this particular series. This deck here I call my Human Heroism deck. It is basically using the Exalted mechanic. And this deck here I call my Grisly Salvage deck. It utilizes some graveyard bits and pieces. So we are on round 1. Human Heroism has won twice. So I always give the winning deck the option to go first, and let's see what we have here. All right, well that's going to come into play tapped if we have unless we have a forest or a plains, but we really kind of want to get that guy into play. 2 Gavany Townships, that won't help us much with mana, but gives us some options later. So I think I'm gonna put my Sunpetal Grove into play, tapped, because I do not have a forest or a plains in play yet. So that is what we will have to do. And then let's see if this is a keepable hand. It looks like it had land issues last time. So I'm going to have to go get a black land. I'm going to have to fish for one eventually. But I have a couple of Slitherheads, so if I put that forest in and play that, that at least maybe gives me some opportunity to get some damage out on the board. We'll see. Okay, so coming back over round 2, and what is this deck gonna do? So the Noble Hierarch has Exalted. That is a very good one to get out. Probably will play that first, and this one is tapped out and doesn't have any cards that would be able to play without mana. So Noble Hierarch will be in play, and then Human Heroism will go ahead and get a blue island into play, and then pass to the Grisly Salvage deck. All right, so draws a swamp. That is fantastic. Grisly Salvage is going to take advantage of that, play the swamp, tap, and play Abrupt Decay, which will destroy this. Destroy target non-land permanent with converted mana cost 3 or less. This has mana cost 3 or less, and that's gonna destroy that. It goes to the graveyard. Abrupt Decay cannot be countered. And then we can attack with that and knock Human Heroism down to 19. And then that is all of our land for that play. Going on to round 3. All right. So we'll untap everything. No upkeep to speak of. We'll draw a card. Technically, I think that is going to come into play. So we're going to put this in. I think this comes into play tap, if I'm not mistaken, because Sunpetal Grove is not a forest or a plains. So having one does not preclude the other one getting to come into play tapped, but we are going to tap both of those, and so all of our land will be tapped. And we're going to go ahead and play an Invisible Stalker, because this is a very good card in this deck, and that is a 1/1 with hexproof, and he is unblockable. So we'll see if we can get him to start doing some damage here. All right, moving back over to Grisly Salvage. And probably I'm going to end up playing the card this deck is named after. I think we are going to. So first, before we play anything, we're going to attack with the Slitherhead, because if Human Heroism wants to block with the Invisible Stalker, then by all means I would be thrilled to take him out, but Human Heroism's not. It's just going to take that, and then we're going to do, well, we're going to play this, and this is a Grisly Salvage, kind of what the deck's named after. So we reveal the top 5 cards of the library, and then we can put a creature or a land card into our hand and the rest into our graveyard. Well, that seems pretty crazy. Well, the reason that I love this card is I really often want to get creatures into my graveyard. So this is definitely going to the graveyard. Anything that's not a land or a creature can't possibly come to my hand. But I really want, I kind of want this, and I'd rather have these creatures in the graveyard. The Glean Crawler is good to pull out of the graveyard with another card I have in the deck. So now that gets my graveyard moving a little bit. And then we will also tap that and play this other Slitherhead here. And that will get us set up for the next turn. All right. Number 4, and Human Heroism is going to untap and draw, and we are going to start doing some stuff over here. So we want to get as much damage through as fast as possible. So we're going to play the, I'm going to tap that for a white and that for colorless, and we're going to play Avon Squire, and that has Exalted, which means whenever a creature attacks alone, the way Exalted works, if you're not familiar with this mechanic, you count all the creatures that have Exalted, and as long as you attack with one creature by itself, all those creatures with Exalted give the attacking creature +1/+1. So you want to kind of build up a tableau of several Exalted creatures and then have either one of them or some other creature attacking. In this case, I'm going to attack with my Invisible Stalker, which has hexproof and is unblockable. So now it gets +1/+1, so it's going to be a 2/2, and Grisly Salvage can't block it, so he has to take that damage. Hold on before I finish my turn. I played that. I think I am going to actually tap and play the Omen Speaker as well, and that allows me to look at my top 2 cards. I get to scry, and another Invisible Stalker. I don't necessarily need 2 Invisible Stalkers, but the Sublime Archangel is absolutely fantastic. So we're gonna put Sublime Archangel there, and because she will give all of my creatures Exalted, which means it really starts to stack up. All right, moving over to Grisly Salvage. Let's see here, draw a card, and we have some options. This Deadly Brew is, I haven't had that in my deck for terribly long. I forget what it does. Each player sacrifices a creature or planeswalker. If you sacrifice a permanent this way, you may return another permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. Ooh, that's kind of neat. All right, so I think I want to play a swamp, and the question is, if I make him sacrifice a creature, that's not bad, but he's got a pretty easy creature to sacrifice. I'd almost rather take something else out, but these are not going to get through. Well, one might get through. Let's attack with both of these, because I want to see what he would do with these. Well, he would assign a blocker there, and he would let one through. So, taking 17, this is going to die. And now I have that creature, so what I can probably do is start prepping for the next round. I got nothing to block with anyway, so I am going to cast Deadly Brew, and I will sacrifice that creature, and he has to sacrifice a creature, which is definitely going to be that one. And then we are not at a place where we can play anything else. So, oh, and I get to return a permanent from my graveyard to my hand. Return another permanent card. So I could return a land to my hand. Each player loses a life. So I have a card coming out pretty soon that this would be helpful. I'm debating adding that. I think I am going to take this one back to my hand. All right. So that is Grisly Salvage. We'll go on to round 5. Untap everything and draw. And yeah, this is just going to be a good play. We're going to put in the Sublime Archangel. So every creature has exalted now. And she has exalted as well. So that means that when I attack with this guy, which I'm going to, he's going to get a +1/+1 for every creature because they all have exalted due to the Archangel. So he's going to hit for 4, and that's going to put that one down to 14, and then we're going to play our Gavany Township as well. And yeah, this is not a good situation for the Grisly Salvage. Let's see what happens. What are we gonna do here? I kind of want to set up for some other potential things, but that is just going to keep knocking me down. However, the setup will be better in the long run if I do a little bit of that first. So now if my opponent ends up having removal, this is not going to help very much, but I am going to cast Dina Soul Steeper, and I'm going to go ahead and play 2 and sacrifice this Warped Landscape to look through my deck here and grab another land. And actually what I kind of want to get is a white Plains. It comes into play tapped because I only have like 1 in this deck, I believe, maybe 2 at most. And I have this other Murmuring Bosk that can produce a white as well if I pay a life for it. But the purpose of that is that there's a flashback card that takes white in my deck. And it's very handy if I can get it. And I think there's one in my graveyard, if I'm not mistaken. There is not. There's not that card in my graveyard, but it's in my hand. It's this Unburial Rites, which for 5, you can return a creature card from graveyard to the battlefield, and then it's got flashback, can do it again. So there are some interesting options there if I can get it set up and actually have the opportunity to get the damage through. But Human Heroism is going to go at number 6. So let's see. There are a couple of options here. I think it's going to make sense to play both of these creatures. So what we are going to do is, let's see, we need a white and 2. So we're going to play those, tap those 3 rather, and we're going to play the Crusader of Odric and a blue and 1, and we're going to play Omen Speaker, which allows us to scry. We don't need land. We are good on the land. Creatures help the most. Everybody has exalted, so he's going to get +5 for a total of 6 that he is attacking for, and that's going to knock Grisly Salvage down to 8. So this is going to be probably, unless Grisly Salvage gets some things that are going to help it destroy some creatures, it's not going to be long for the life here. So let's see what is going to be the best option. He can't block that. Going to take 8 or rather 6 damage next turn, or if I attacked with everything, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Might even want to attack with this next turn. Probably should have done that last turn, because that would have been 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. But next turn, if I get that through, I can win the game. How are we going to do this? Where X is sacrifice creature's power. Okay. So we can, debating, I only have 8 life, so with the ability to attack with that, we're not going to get much through. This might be the only option for staying alive at this point in time. So if we play a Gray Merchant of Asphodel, then that is going to give us 3 life, because it's 1 life for every black mana that we have. So we're going to go up to 11, and he is going to lose 3 life, going down to 14. And do I want to use this ability? Could go up to a 3. It will not help because Human Heroism can block with that. And so we're just going to sit there and see what Human Heroism does and if they can pull out a win in this next turn. Multiple instances of Exalted. Each triggers separately. Oh, interesting. So, according to this, other creatures you control have Exalted. If a creature has multiple instances of Exalted, each triggers separately, would indicate that the ruling is this actually is kind of gets 2 instances of Exalted. It would also indicate that if I put another Sublime Archangel into play, which I'm inclined to do, that it would give, like, it would double the Exalted on that as well as that. So if I was to attack with this, it starts at base 4, and then it's going to get 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Plus, it is going to get, this one has it twice, so 11, 12, 13. So, yeah, that's going to be 13 damage. I'm gonna rule it that way. I'm making my own ruling here, and we will say Human Heroism wins. So let's get our trusty pad over here. I think that was turn 7, unless I forgot one. Human Heroism wins turn 7 and had 14 life. Okay, so that is a round with the Human Heroism deck and the Grisly Salvage deck. Let me know what you think. If you had thoughts or ideas on some cards that you think would be beneficial in these decks, certainly post that in the comments. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are, or if you've played a deck that is, you know, akin to one of these. What do you think? If you saw something in here that you thought was kind of, oh, that's neat, I haven't seen that before, you know, let me know what you think of that. My biggest issue that I feel like I run into in a lot of my decks, and I have a fair number of dual lands of various types. The more expensive ones I try to put in my better decks, but some decks like this Grisly Salvage deck, I have tried to come up with other creative ways because I don't have a lot of the dual lands. So you saw like the Murmuring Bosk in there, and I use Warped Landscape to go fish for lands, try to get some of the lands out early if I can, and then allow myself hopefully more other card draws once I have enough land built up. But it really couldn't survive through enough turns to make it deep into the game, enough to start playing some of those more powerful cards that are more expensive. So that's the downside of this Grisly Salvage, is sometimes it takes a while to build. The human heroism seems to just be, it's got less cost to the cards and can build up pretty fast and do enough initial damage and then have some pretty big hits later in the game. I think that's the first time I've ever played a game where I drew 2 Sublime Archangels or Sublime Angels in a game. Usually I'm good to get one of them, but they're so handy, and they're not legendary. I almost feel like they should be legendary, but they're not, so I can get 2 in play at once. This is also the first game I noticed that it looks like, according to the rules on the card, that each instance of Exalted can trigger more than once. Like a creature can have multiple instances of Exalted on it, and I didn't even realize that. I thought Exalted was kind of like a static, one creature could have Exalted, but you could never get a double, kind of like you can't get Trample twice. You know, you get Trample, you don't double Trample. You got Double Strike, but that's different than Trample. So the doubling of Exalted is kind of interesting. I might have to go look and see if there's any creature that has 2 instances of Exalted on it already, just for kicks and giggles. But there you go. Thanks for joining me. If you enjoyed it, give it a like, and if you care to subscribe to the channel, then feel free to do that. If there are some tips or tricks that you know of based on these decks, then definitely, yeah, love to hear those. And otherwise, have a great day.